Black veteran humiliated by cops at a coffee shop. What happened 5 minutes later will shock you. Have you ever witnessed a moment so unjust that it leaves you speechless? Imagine an elderly black veteran calmly sipping his coffee at a local shop, only to be rudely interrupted by 2 police officers. Now, picture the confusion on his face as he realizes they're demanding he leave the cafe, claiming he's loitering. What would you do if you saw someone who dedicated his life to serving his country treated with such blatant disrespect? The cafe was buzzing with people. Most didn't even notice the officers at first, but a few bystanders began to murmur as the situation grew tense. "Sir, we received a complaint that you were making customers uncomfortable," one of the officers said, his voice sharp and unyielding. The veteran, Mr. Henry Johnson, was stunned. He looked around, trying to see if anyone in the cafe looked uncomfortable. What had he done to deserve this treatment? Why didn't anyone step in to stop this? People looked on, some out of curiosity, some with sympathy, but no one moved a muscle. The veteran's face fell, his eyes clouded with a mix of confusion and hurt. "I fought for this country. I earned the right to sit in any cafe I choose," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. But the officers were relentless, their tone not changing even slightly. They insisted he needed to leave. Was it his age, his race, or the uniform he no longer wore that made him invisible to them? Just when it seemed like they were about to force him out, the cafe door opened, and in walked his daughter, Captain Lisa Johnson. Have you ever seen a moment where everything changes in the blink of an eye? Lisa, in her army uniform, spotted her father and immediately sensed something was wrong. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the tense scene unfolding before her. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "Is there a problem here?" The officers turned, surprised to see the authoritative figure in uniform. She wasn't just another bystander. This was a captain in the United States Army. The tables had turned, and everyone in the cafe sensed it. Could the officers feel the shift in power? One officer, clearly flustered, stammered, "Ma'am, we were just responding to a complaint." But Lisa wasn't interested in excuses. "A complaint?" she repeated, crossing her arms and fixing the officers with a stare that could cut steel. "Against this man, my father, who is a decorated veteran?" Her words echoed through the cafe, and you could almost feel the weight of the room press down on the officers. Would they still dare to treat him this way now, that they knew who he was? The second officer shifted uncomfortably, clearly realizing they'd made a grave error. But it was too late. Lisa wasn't about to let this go. "Show me the complaint," she demanded, not taking her eyes off them. Who exactly felt uncomfortable around a veteran quietly having his coffee? The officers exchanged glances, clearly out of their depth. One mumbled something about standard procedure, but Lisa wasn't buying it. She reached into her pocket, pulling out her phone. "If this is your standard procedure, then we have a serious problem. I'm documenting everything." Is it fair for veterans to be treated like this after all they've sacrificed? Now, the bystanders finally found their voices. People started murmuring words of support for Mr. Johnson, and someone even stood up saying, "This man didn't bother anyone. Leave him alone." One of the officers, realizing they were cornered, finally backed down. "We apologize for the misunderstanding," he said, though his tone made it sound more like an obligation than genuine remorse. But Lisa wasn't done. "Apologizing doesn't erase the humiliation my father just endured," she replied firmly. "I'll be filing an official complaint." As she spoke, she emphasized the word official, making it clear that this wouldn't be swept under the rug. How many times must incidents like this happen before real change occurs? The cafe manager approached, wringing his hands nervously, and tried to smooth things over. "Maybe we can offer your father a free coffee," he suggested. But Lisa wasn't interested in gestures. "Respect can't be bought with a free cup of coffee," she snapped. "How can you all stand by and allow a man who served his country to be disrespected like this?" The officers, now fully aware of the gravity of their mistake, fumbled to explain themselves, but Lisa wasn't having it. "This isn't just about today," she said, her voice steady but filled with a quiet rage. "It's about the lack of respect shown to veterans, especially black veterans, who sacrificed everything for a country that too often overlooks their service." How many veterans have faced this same treatment? Their dignity stripped away for no reason. Later, Lisa went straight to the police department, her complaint detailed and uncompromising. She demanded accountability and insisted that the officers involved face repercussions. How would they learn if there were no consequences? Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. The story quickly gained traction, drawing attention to the mistreatment of veterans. A local news station picked up the story, and within days it was on social media, sparking discussions nationwide. People shared their own stories, flooding the internet with accounts of veterans disrespected and neglected. Could this incident finally be the wake-up call that society needed? Eventually, the police department announced that the officers involved would face suspension and undergo sensitivity training. This was a small victory, but for Lisa and her father, it was a step toward something larger. The department issued a public apology, recognizing Mr. Johnson's service and committing to new policies to prevent incidents like this from happening again. The cafe itself also felt the heat, with people calling for a boycott until they showed more respect toward veterans. Under public pressure, the management organized a Veterans Appreciation Day to honor those who served, with proceeds going to veterans organizations. Lisa made it clear that while she appreciated the gesture, true respect wasn't about a single day. It was about continuous recognition and honoring veterans' sacrifices every day. As for Mr. Johnson, he eventually returned to the cafe, this time with Lisa by his side. The manager approached them with a warm handshake, apologizing again and offering a heartfelt thanks for Mr. Johnson's service. This time the words seemed sincere, and Mr. Johnson accepted, though with a quiet dignity. Shouldn't veterans like him be honored and celebrated instead of humiliated? As they left the cafe, Lisa glanced at her father, who walked with his head held high. "Dad, I'm proud of you," she said, her voice soft but filled with pride. He smiled, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "And I'm proud of you, Captain," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. They walked out together, a symbol of resilience and strength. In the end, it was a bittersweet victory. Change had been sparked, but the scars remained. How many veterans had endured similar experiences in silence? For Lisa, this was a battle won, but it reminded her of the countless battles still left to fight, not on foreign soil, but right here at home, where respect and dignity are rights every veteran deserves. And as for those officers, the story served as a powerful reminder. They had been reprimanded, and they would face the consequences of their actions. But more importantly, they would have to confront the reason behind their actions. Could they truly learn to see beyond the uniform, beyond race, to recognize the humanity and sacrifice in every veteran's face? For Mr. Johnson and his daughter, this experience reaffirmed their purpose, to fight for respect, honor, and justice, not just for themselves, but for all veterans. The world may have overlooked them once, but they wouldn't let it happen again.
If you've watched this far, comment which country you're watching from and leave a 100 in the comment section, because you are type of person that likes to finish what they started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos.